It is Friday, and it is a first, because this is the first time we are broadcasting live to both YouTube and Facebook. So the Gin and Tonic
Awesome.
Show on Facebook. You can now watch this, because we've had people who've had some problems with the phones watching it on YouTube and commenting and saying things. So we're hoping that this will alleviate this, so that, now that we have two different sources where you can participate, is going to make it easier. It's going to make it a little bit more complicated for us, because we need to decide whether we are addressing somebody on Facebook or on YouTube, or both together. So I'm going to leave it on both together for the time being. But if there is any issue with this, I will then, if somebody makes a specific comment somewhere, then I will go and try and address this to that particular stream, to that particular person. It's not going to be easy. We'll just have to go and wing it, and we'll just try and see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. It is today, the 11th of October, and we are talking about Islam. We try not to bring up other faiths, other ideologies, other whatever, because, well, I, for one, don't know enough about others, and that's why we try and focus on Islam. Now, what we don't do is we don't attack individual Muslims or Muslims in general. We don't attack Islam. We don't attack anyone's belief or faith, all right? If somebody needs a God, why should I care? It's just the actions, it's just the consequences that we address. That's why we try and say, all right, what we need to do is we need to find out why somebody is doing something and what the consequence is coming from, and then we go and address this accordingly. All right. Muslims or in general, we don't attack Islam. We don't attack anyone's belief or faith. All right. If somebody needs a God, thank you. Just the action. Thunderous. Consequences that we. Okay. All right. So what we do is clear now. I think we let the Quran speak for itself, literally, because what we're doing is we're reading it. This is now time to welcome the panel, because we've got Faye here, who is able to actually read the Quran in Arabic. So nobody can say we're not trying to do it in Arabic as well. Now, she's not a native, natural, ancient Arabic person. She did not learn ancient Arabic 1,000 years ago or something. But at least we have somebody who knows the original, can handle and manage the original, and that is the most important thing. So nobody can tell us we're only dependent on translations. That is not the case. A bit later on, we're going to be joined by Rob. So welcome, Faye. How are you doing? How was the week for you?
It's been a crazy week. I think every single day of this week I've had a minimum of 2 Red Bulls. I've started a new job and I've realized that it's not for me, so I'm going to be leaving that job soon to look for a different one. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I got smeared online this week by a prominent LGBT Muslim. We're not going to talk about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum on everything. So I'm not going to talk about it.
But you're looking nice and fresh anyway, so what's your problem?
Huh?
If you got smeared, you can't see it.
I don't know. If you're trying to tell a joke, it's going right over my head right now.
It's a joke, okay.
But that's what that was part of it. I'm sober this month because I'm trying to raise money for Macmillan Cancer. I know that you don't support raising money on your channel, so I'm not going to plug here, but that's what I'm doing. It's just been a crazy week. I'm feeling sentimental because my mother died of cancer, so I'm like, my brain is all over the place. But other than that, the week's been quite good.
I just lost father-in-law to cancer 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So yes, we all know what that is like. And it's quite funny because somebody said, well, you must have somebody in the family, friends and family, who has been affected by cancer. And I always said, no, not at all. And then poof, out of the blue, just like that. Nobody knew about it. He was having problems, with blood and urine and so on. And then suddenly somebody said, well, let's check for cancer instead of looking for painkillers and antibiotics. and they found he has cancer of the kidney, and that's terminal. And it was a month or so, and he died. So, yeah. Okay, Thunderous. How was your week? What you up to? Oh, sorry, Thunder Jew. If anybody's wondering, this happened 2 weeks ago when somebody was making a comment that Thunder is not an ex-Muslim and he's not a non-Muslim now. He's actually a Jew, so he should be called Thunder Jew, and this stuck. So, being the good sport that he is, he decided to just go, okay, I'll take it. I'll be offensive. I'll accept it.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm fine. Just been at work training for my new role in the bank. So I've got nothing really exciting to report. It's a dull job, and I've had a dull week, and it's been raining and grey today, so it's been a dull day. But I've been looking forward to the show. I've been looking forward to this interaction that we're going to be having, and I'm looking forward to the comments from the audience too. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the show, and it's really good see Faye here this evening as well. It's part of the dynamic of the show that I really look forward to now.
Oh, thank you. You guys have made me read the Quran every Friday like I'm an actual Muslim, so it's making me question a lot of things. I think I actually need to get a Quran. I don't know. One of you Muslim organizations that's in the chat, just send me one. I know they're free, so.
I'll give you a tip. I went into a Muslim shop once that was selling Qurans, and that's where I got my user-friendly translation from. And I said, "Can I have that for free?" And the guy says, "No, they're £15." And I says, "Well, I can go to a church and get a Bible for free, and you're telling me that book's corrupted. This book is supposed to be giving me truth, and you want me to pay £15 for it?" In the end, the guy gave it to me for free. He gave it to me for free again. And incidentally, just on this point, I contacted the Saudi Arabian embassy 3 times to give me the complete hadith and tafsir, because I'm not paying £500 on eBay for it. And they refused me 3 times, but that's from their Dawah department, saying they don't have the funds to give out the tafsir and the hadith for free, even though they get rich Arab oil money funding them.
I don't know. I don't feel like they would go that far, but I have gotten free Qurans before. So I'll see if I can get my hands on one, just so I don't have to read from the screen. It would make things a little easier.
Oh, okay. Well, what Rob always does, he has a tab next to him, and then he puts up the sentences on there so that he can then read them from there. So he's a little bit ahead of us.
Yeah, so. I don't use my laptop for the stream. I use my phone, so it's a little bit more difficult. But if I had like a hard copy, then that would be helpful. I might try to get one tomorrow. I'm probably sure I can find a Dawah store somewhere that'll just throw one at me. So yeah, I can figure that one out pretty easily.
Brilliant. Okay, then what we've done is we've done the intro. We've said hello to everybody. I still don't see any comments from Facebook, so it seems that most people are still on YouTube. They're used to this, I think, and it's it's what you're used to. That's where you stay. But like I said, we do have the option available to those who have any kind of a problem from the YouTube side. You can watch this on the Gin and Tonic show on Facebook, and this might be easier for you. I've just attended the first Facebook live stream conference call, whatever you want to call it, by a Muslim, an apologist. He has interviewed another Muslim apologist who has, he's opened a channel, and what he's trying to do, he's trying to criticize the apostate prophet. Yeah. Now, the apostate prophet has had a huge upswing because of his attitude, because he doesn't bullshit, he doesn't bring nonsense or something. Everything he says, he takes from his past and he substantiates every single thing that he claims. And this is his strength, and I think this is why people appreciate the integrity of what he says, of what he presents on his channel. And this is why it's quite funny to have this guy criticize now the apostate prophet. And I went on one of his videos and I looked at it, and I was appalled, because all he says is, well, you know, like there's no slavery in Islam because the Quran doesn't mention slavery. No, of course it doesn't. It's not in English. It's in Arabic. And I mean, if you go and you look at the Quran, the way that it is structured, the way that it mentions this, I don't know how many millions of times. You can't go and say, well, it doesn't mention what slaves or something. No, of course not. It says ma malakat aymanukum, and that's what it says hundreds of times. And because
Quran
it uses that expression, you can't say it doesn't mention slavery just because it doesn't mention the word slavery.
If there's anything that we've learned from this show is that the Quran's like really, really vague. So the interpretation can be anything from here to the sun. Like it doesn't really matter what people assume that it means. The Quran is explained by the tafsirs and by the hadith, so that's where you have to go with. And if you're not going with that, then you're kind of just playing a guessing game. You know, it's not really saying much that the Quran doesn't mention slavery. It's there in the life and times of the Prophet, and it's there in the tafsir, and it's there in the hadith, so it exists. That is how the Quran is interpreted. It's how it's been interpreted for, you know, over 1,000 years now. So it's not really saying much that it doesn't mention the word, because it's all vague anyway.
Yeah. So you can't argue, well, it doesn't use the word slavery, and therefore slavery is not mentioned at all in the Quran. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty dishonest to do anything like that. And I think if anybody is honest at reading the Quran, well, there's a lot of things it doesn't say. There's a lot of things which are implied, and as Faye just said, it's so vague and ambiguous that you can't, you know, take the literal words. You need to interpret every single sentence. And the way that it is then interpreted decides what kind of a Muslim you're going to be. Now, the thing is, there are no two Muslims which are 100% alike. Every Muslim has some sort of a difference in the way that something is being interpreted. Because there's simply, I mean, it's only, just over 6,000 sentences, but there's a lot of interpretation going on there. That is why even today you have different scholars coming up with more new interpretations of the same text.
I think they reinterpreted 72 virgins as 72 raisins recently, which is hysterical.
No, that's different. That's Mr. Luxemburger. He's a scholar of languages. Okay, he said if you take the Quran literally, it doesn't make sense. Like, for example, if you take the Quran when it talks about Mary, when it says, look at your condition, look at the condition of your ass, and you add the donkey, okay? And this doesn't make sense. But if you take the word that is being used there and you know, use the old Aramaic, then it makes sense, because then it's not talking about the donkey, but it's looking at her general condition in society. And then it makes sense. The same with the raisins, what you just brought up. It's not the virgins. You get rewarded with raisins, with fresh grapes. And that makes a lot more sense, because fresh grapes in the desert, in the Arabian Peninsula,
raisins aren't fresh grapes, though. Raisins are far from fresh.
No, sorry, it's grapes.
Raisins
it's fresh
are
grapes, not raisins, but grapes. And the grapes you can't really get, so they're precious. And this is why it makes a lot of sense that people are rewarded with streams of wine and grapes, because they are precious. So it makes a lot more sense. But anyway, this is just one interpretation. It's just one form, and it shows the variety of things that you can make with the Quran. And that is why we are finding, as we are reading the Quran, different interpretations and different ways of looking at it too. Okay, quickly before we go into the Quran, I've got two stories I want to tell you. I can't remember if I'd already talked about it, because I chatted with this to Rob, but I can't remember if we already spoke about this last week here, because I think we did. Did we talk about Pakistan, Turkey, and Malaysia jointly launching anti-Islamophobia TV?
I wasn't there. I don't know.
Or anybody in the chat, did we already talk about this anti-Islamophobia TV station where the Pakistani Prime Minister says that neither Islam nor any other religion has anything to do with terrorism?
I've not heard. No, I've not heard anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Then Pakistan, Turkey, and Malaysia. I mean, our favorite countries. I did. Beach, thank you very much. I did. So anyway, they launched this anti-Islamophobia TV, and I think it's a joke, really, because neither Islam nor anybody has anything to do with terrorism. No, of course not. So, Muslims are totally innocent. There's nothing to do with Islam. Muslims have nothing to do with Islam. Islam has nothing to do with Islam. So, and they said that how's a man in the street supposed to tell who is a radical Muslim and who is a moderate Muslim? You can't tell. It depends, and we're back to the same thing, how you interpret it. And that is why we get Islamic violence at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so somebody says I did, somebody says didn't. Okay, now I did. There's a TV channel which is supposed to come out. We'll see it. Now, what is interesting is that there is an ISIS study. And I'm going to just read this article because this is so interesting. This is so fascinating. Young men who leave their homes to fight for terrorist groups in Syria mainly come from the disadvantaged backgrounds, have low levels of education, and lack any basic understanding of the true meaning of jihad or even the Islamic faith, according to this new report. Now, remember, this is generalization. It doesn't mean that there is no example of a man who comes from a privileged background, okay? It's just generally, this is where young men come from. And the study for the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism found that despite claiming to protect Muslims, most of the returned fighters were novices in their religion, and some did not know how to even pray properly. And now I'm quoting, most saw their religion in terms of justice and injustice, rather than in terms of piety and spirituality, said the authors of the report, which was based on interviews with people from 12 different countries. And that is a typical... Yes, Faye?
I did speak about this. I can't remember which podcast it was on. They've all become a blur because I've been on so many now. But I did speak about this recently, and I said that Islam currently has become more of an identity politics thing right now than an actual religion that people follow. So when minorities are oppressed in the way that many of the Western countries, do, though while not to the extent that Turkey might persecute Kurds or China might persecute Muslims, there is a level of anti-Muslim bigotry here in the West. And when minorities are pressed like this, the identity politics do tend to rise. So when these causes are being, pushed in by the media, and you have ISIS fighting in Syria, or you have, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, whichever one you want, Islam is trophied more as an identity thing, and they want to go and fight for their identity rather than for their religion, which I think is really interesting.
Yes.
I wouldn't be dismissive of that report. I would be, I would agree with that report, but that does not negate the fact that a lot of the things that ISIS does is Islamic. So yeah, that was the only comment I had for that. I wouldn't be dismissive of that report because I feel that is believable. I do think that most Western Muslims are not practicing Muslims.
They continue. They found that a typical fighter is most likely to be male, young, disadvantaged economically, educational, and in terms of the labor market. He is also more likely than not to come from a marginalized background, both socially and politically, the report added. Most were unemployed or underemployed, and or said their life lacked meaning. And that's it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, there's a lot of people that are not like that, okay? I know of examples, individuals who did have a job. I mean, having a job, if you deliver parcels for I don't know, DHL or UPS or something, you have a job, but it's not the best and most perfect job that there is around. And you will not find the manager of a bank or the CEO of a working and profitable company suddenly dropping everything and going off to Syria to fight I don't know what, to kill others just to make a point that I am the greatest and anybody who doesn't believe what I believe needs to be killed. That's crazy. So there's a lot of truth in what they are saying here, I think.
I do. I agree with that. I think that there is a lot of, from talking to, especially from talking to converts, if I'm honest, like talking to people who convert to Islam. I've noticed that the one thing that they have in common is that they felt as though there was something lacking in their life, and they filled that lacking, whatever that was, with Islam, and somehow that seems to be working for them. I don't think that it's a solution, but if it works, it works. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do. But it's unfortunate that instead of facing the problem head on, we're just trying to bandage a problem with delusions and fantasies and
Exactly.
It's
just a Facebook comment.
It's sad to me, and it's destructive, because these young people that you're talking about, these people have decided to fill this gap of meaninglessness, rather than actually addressing what they feel, which is they feel meaningless. Rather than addressing that, they've just decided to fill it with violence, driven by whatever they feel they are disadvantaged in. And that's unfortunate, and that's why I feel as though I talked about this a little bit back when the Shamima Begum fiasco was going on, and I was for bringing her back, but I felt as though whatever crime she committed in Syria, she should be charged for here, because I think that leaving those people out in Syria or sending them back to a country where they are potentially volatile is a bad plan, because you're just going to band together misfits. So that's what I was for, and I do think that those young people are deeply, deeply damaged. I'm not excusing what they did. I'm not condoning what they did. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be charged. They absolutely should. But I do also think that there's a level of rehabilitation that they have to go through. And maybe that's me being naive. Maybe that's me being way too positive about the situation. But that's what I do. That's what I think about them. Yeah, I think that it's sad while it's very, very terrifying.
No, and I think the people need to take responsibility for what they do, and they can't just say, "Well, I was indoctrinated by Islam." That's like saying, "Well, I had a violent father, and therefore I went on a killing spree, and therefore you need to excuse me." Sorry, no, that's not the way that it works. You need to take responsibility for what you're doing, and then there needs to be there can be rehabilitation, or if you insist on doing that, well, I'm sorry, mate, then you're going to stay wherever you are. It was your choice to go there in the first place.
But you're talking about rehabilitation, right? But you can't rehabilitate. If you've learned something from the Quran, then that's the manifesto. The only way to rehabilitate...
No, Thunder, speak to Majid Nawaz. No, there's plenty. Come on, Thunder, there's plenty of people. There are lots of people who said, I went on jihad, and I was actually on that level, and then I realized something was wrong, and I was rehabilitated.
And still Muslim. How can you rehabilitate if the Islamic manifesto in the Quran, as we're reading it, makes the statements that it does, and also with the Hadith? And this is where I say, and I've said it time and again, the Quran defines Islam, not Muslims, whether they're violent ones or radical.
He just explained
whatever euphemism you want to use, however peaceful you think they are, or they've been reconditioned, re-socialized, re-assimilated, whatever verbatim or euphemism you want to use, the Quran defines Islam. If they're not following the Quran, they are no longer Muslim, period.
No, but Faye just explained it.
Can I just interject? The level of indoctrination that I went through, and the kind of Muslim that I was, I would have, if ISIS had just started a couple of years earlier, I would have been one of those brides there. I believe that people can change. I believe that people can have an epiphany, and they can turn their life around. I don't think that we should give up on people simply because we think that it's not possible. We have to try.
The point I'm trying to make is, the point I'm trying to make, though, if the Quran teaches, right, as an example, do not become friends or associates with Christians and Jews because this is a sin, okay, then you can't say, well, I'm living in England now, I have to disobey Allah and become friends with Christians and Jews. The Quran, the identity already in place. You cannot become friends with Christians and Jews, otherwise you'll become like them in Allah's eyes. That's black and white.
I understand that, but we're not discussing the Quran right now. We're discussing Muslims. We're discussing
But the Quran,
people.
but what I'm saying is you can't take you can take the person out of Islam, but you can't take Islam out of the person. It's either Islam or it's not. A person is either a Muslim or they're not. You're either pregnant or you're not. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't be a little bit Muslim. I'll if you like, avoid all the ayah in the Quran that tell me things that are not quite right with my conscious or my psyche or the community or the country that I live in, and leave them behind. It doesn't. Religion doesn't work like that.
I understand that, but I also feel as though people identify themselves in the way that they do. You can't just say that that person is not a Muslim when they identify as a Muslim.
Okay, that's like saying then, well, you know, I'm a Muslim, but I don't accept Muhammad.
Yeah.
If they say that they're a Muslim, then you have to take that as at face value. I'm not saying that you have to agree. I'm not saying that you can't think that they're delusional, but they identify as what they identify. And the point that I was trying to make is that if people go and they fight in these lands, I think that it's possible to rehabilitate them if they want to change. That is what we're talking about. I'm not saying I'm not making the argument for reforming Islam, because I don't think that there's much hope there, but I do think that people can be reformed.
Oh, I'm not challenging the statement that people could be reformed, but I don't. But if you can't reform the identity of Islam within the person, the Quran defines Islam itself. So you
I
can't.
would never deign,
You're mixing.
I would
You're
never
mixing
deign
things.
to say. I would never deign to say that Islam as a whole could be changed.
Exactly.
But what I'm failing to discern here is that if a person studies Islam, he then sees what is demanded of him by his God. Okay, he finds that it's contrary to either his nature or the country he's living in. He goes to another country and he follows out the commandments that his God requires of him. He then wants
Thunder, you're going off on a wrong track. What you are saying is you can only take the Quran as one single message. That is exactly the point. You can't. What you can do with the Quran, you can massage it in any way that you want it. You can make it say whatever you want. And if you want to be a good, prosperous, peaceful, kind, hospitable Muslim, you can do that using the Quran. You can also do the opposite, fine, but it's up to you what you make of it. So you can be a Muslim and pick and choose whatever you want from the Quran and say, I am a Muslim because I am adhering to what my God wants me to do. The other thing, we're done at a different time for a different reason, for a different purpose, and therefore I am perfectly in order to ignore them at this point in time. It is not being honest. It is not being consistent. It is not being anything to do with that. It is not saying that there is nothing in Islam that can be abused. No, it is just the way that a lot of Muslims do this. This is what I see with colleagues of mine who simply go and say, I am doing what I think is in the nature of Islam, and that is what I am applying.
Oh, so if I turn around and say I don't drink alcohol and I don't eat pork, I can still identify myself as a Muslim because those 2 points are in the Quran.
Well, they're not in the Quran, but you can identify them. This is the whole point. That's what Faye is saying. Because it is not there, because it needs interpretation, you can do whatever you want.
It's how you identity politics. The thing with identity politics is that once you identify as something, people have to take it at face value. It's your identity. You get to define who you are.
And I don't accept that. I will always go to the source as the source defines the identity of the person. The person doesn't identify the personality or the identity of the source.
Look,
okay, do you identify as an ex-Muslim?
Hitler identified as a Christian. Are you going to accept that he was a good one? It's, you know, Hitler.
Hitler, no, because when I go to the source, there's nothing about what he said that matches with the Bible. So his claim of being a Christian is false.
He says he's doing God's work.
But when we go to the source, we find he's not doing God's work. His attitude
this is not the point. This is exactly what Faye is trying to say.
The source defines the identity. The Bible defines it.
No, people define their identity.
Not the person.
People define their identity.
Yes.
Books written thousands of years ago cannot identify people today. It's not possible. That's not a thing.
It's not objective. I understand what you are saying, Thunderous. I understand what you are saying. Yes, and to a certain extent you are right. Yes. But if you go to the people, if I go to the person who says, you, for example, you are saying you're an ex-Muslim, but maybe you don't drink alcohol. Aha, you see, you're still a Muslim. So, it doesn't work like that. Just because you are abusing a couple of sentences from the Quran because you don't kill it, you don't do this, you don't do that, it does not mean that you are a Muslim. You have decided that you are an ex-Muslim, even though there are still things that you adhere to which could be taken from the Quran.
But actually, I use that as an illustration. I actually do eat pork and I do drink alcohol, and the very tasty products, I might add.
Okay, but I don't. So what now?
Well, unless you agree to disagree, but for me personally, I'll put it out there because I've said this. And if you remember, when we started the show on the Quran many months ago, I did say repeatedly, Islam is defined by the Quran, not by Muslim, and I'll still hold to that by any religion.
That's not the point. We all agree on that.
That's not what we're arguing. we're arguing
a different point.
Whether or not Muslims can be reformed, whether or not ISIS can be reformed. That's what we're discussing. We're not saying that Muslims define Islam. That's certainly not the case. Even Muslims say that Muslims don't define Islam. But that's not what we're arguing at all.
But what you're saying is a person could still call themselves a Muslim, even though they're only picking and choosing what they accept from the Quran.
Yes. Yeah, because everyone picks and chooses what they believe. Everyone does.
But if somebody just does, someone travels half the distance to a location, for me, they've not gone to the location if they've only traveled half the distance.
Sandra, how many denominations of Christianity are there?
Many, but there's only one true denomination going by what the Bible teaches.
No.
That's so.
Yeah, even Jesus said it. So. Matthew 7:11 to, or it was Matthew 7:21 to 23. Even Jesus said there's only one path. You read the Sermon on the Mount; he makes it clear there's only one path.
So what are all those other Christians then?
Sorry?
What are all those other Christians?
Well, this is yet again what I'm saying. They make the claim they're Christian, but when you go to the source, the Bible, the source of Christianity, the identity, you find that they don't match. So by implication, they're not Christian then.
Okay, so that's why I said last week, there's at the end of the day, if you go and apply this, then you have only two Muslims left, and that is the person you're talking to and Muhammad. Those are the only two Muslims left, because otherwise there are no two Muslims alike. So can you do that? No. You can't just say there's only one possible Muslim and one possible teaching, because, and this is what Faith said right in the beginning, the Quran is so different the way that you interpret it. It can say the opposite, the exact opposite for two different people, and that's why there are so many different versions. The same thing with the Christianity, that you have 30,000 different denominations in Christianity. The same thing applies to Islam. Maybe not so many, or if you go to extreme, every single Muslim has their own denomination or own version of Islam. It all depends on your viewpoint. That's it.
I've never met two Muslims that agree on everything.
Exactly.
If we go by that definition, no one is a Muslim. Like it's
Oh, I agree with that.
I give this analogy of the mountain with the Matterhorn, for example. If you stand around it, the one person will say, well, it's a vertical wall 2 kilometers high. The other one say it's a gentle incline. It depends if you're standing on opposite sides. Both of them are right. They're describing the same thing, but it depends on where you're standing. So if you form a giant circle around this mountain, everybody is going to tell you something slightly different than the other one. And that's exactly the way that I see it. Even though they're describing the same thing, they have a different view. So, any questions from and we only have one viewer on Facebook and 39 on YouTube. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, guys, just as a reminder, we do have Facebook. If you have questions, come on in and just ask us. And let me just put this thing up. If you want to join the show, message us on in the live chat. You just put there Gin and Tonic Show, and then we'll see it. And then, because I'm not looking at the Facebook stream at the moment, so I can't. I'm not watching Gin and Tonic at the moment because I can't do all 15 things at the same time. I'm only a poor human, a puny human with a puny brain. Okay, are we ready to jump into the Quran a bit?
Yep.
Yep.
Then let me change this a little bit. No, how do I get... this is what I want. Then this I need to take out. There we go. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Hang on. Faye is back. Faye is back. We have to do this. There you go.
You got to put my bit in.
Yep.
All right. You want me to start?
Okay. No, this is what we did last week. Okay. So what we had is we had two sentences so far with a very similar topic, where we had, Lord, indeed, whoever you admit to fire, you have disgraced him. And then the last one where we ended is, Lord, we have heard a caller to your faith, say, believe, and we have believed. Forgive us our sins, remove us, cause us to die with the righteous. And now we get to the third one of this group, which is, and now we can start. Faye, this is your trigger. Yeah.
Okay. ربنا وآتنا ما عدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. That was a weird word. تخزنا.
Okay. But okay, let me take this opportunity here. Faye is doing her utmost, her best, everything at bringing us the contents of the Quran in ancient Arabic. Faye at no point in time has ever claimed that she is a native Arabic speaker. She has not claimed that she went to Al-Azhar or somewhere to learn ancient Arabic. She has never claimed that she is perfect in ancient Arabic. Okay, at no point in time has this happened. So what we're seeing is exactly the things. Even if I read it, I sometimes stumble over words. Oh Lord, and grant us what you promised us. You see, I'm stumbling because us, what you promised us, this is unusual. So there are some things which are unusual, which is exactly what Faye has just said. So I stumble at this. And I don't think I'm the worst English speaker here. And this is exactly the point. And I know that people criticize Faye now and say she's pretending as though. No, she is not. She's doing her best to bring us the contents of the Quran the way that it is intended. And we should appreciate that instead of criticizing it. Okay?
It would be a long way away for me to pretend to know Arabic. It would be a really, really silly thing to do for attention.
Yeah, but you see, people said, yeah, but Faye doesn't speak perfect. I said, yeah, and she's never claimed.
Yeah,
I've never heard you claim that. That's so. Just to make it very clear, if you are better at reciting the Quran in ancient Arabic, please come on the show and do so. You're welcome to do so.
Oh,
okay?
Absolutely. I would love to have a Qiraat battle, but like even English isn't my first language. My first language is Bengali. So Arabic is my third language, and I have never claimed to be good at it. I just know how to recite it, I know how to read it, and I know how to write in it. That's it. Like that's it.
And that should be good enough. But it's funny that people, they start criticizing you, and saying, yeah, but watch out, she's not the. Okay, great, but at least we're honest about it and saying, okay, this is the way that it is. All right, what Sahih International says about this, the Saudi version, our Lord and grant us. Our Lord and grant us. I mean, that's not really English, okay? But this is the way that I don't know, people, do you know that this is the word and, okay? This is wa. So this you can always recognize. And this is the way that most sentences in the Quran actually start off with. So it's, grant us what you promised us through your messengers, and do not disgrace us on the day of resurrection. Indeed, you do not fail in your promise. And then Yusuf Ali says, this is our Lord, grant us what thou didst promise us unto us through thine messengers, and save us from shame on the day of judgment, for thou never breakest thy promise. Okay, I think we can understand this, but it doesn't make any sense because you cannot check any of this. You cannot verify whether this God has ever broken his, her, its, whatever promise. Because up until now, nobody who has died has been resurrected and brought back to heaven, except for one guy called Isa. Isa apparently has been raised to the Lord. That's the only one.
Yeah, he wasn't resurrected. He was just taken up there.
Yeah, okay, true. So he wasn't resurrected. Yeah, okay. So day of resurrection, no, because we haven't reached day of resurrection. So all these things are claims. These are just things that are being told, and somebody is telling us, well, God never breaks a promise. How do you know that?
If I was to do the guesswork on this, the thing that he's promised, I'm guessing, is paradise. It's, I don't know, it's just really, it's a really redundant ayah. He didn't need to say that. It's a filler ayah.
And even Abbas says, well, give us that which he just repeats it. But the funny thing is, even though it is plural, thy messengers, he puts it down to Muhammad. He says Muhammad is the messenger. Forget the other messengers, because they only listen to Muhammad. Torment us not upon the day of resurrection, as you will torment the unbelievers. Great. I am going to be tormented. Why? Because I'm using my brain. Because I'm doing exactly what I was created to do by this God. He created me to be an unbeliever and to use my brain. And then he torments me for creating me like that. People. Okay, what does Jalalain's, our favorite? Our Lord, grant us what you promised. Okay, so they're just repeating.
He said the same thing, yeah.
So there's not a lot.
Is probably my favorite of the lot.
But the thing is if you see, grant us what you promised. Okay. What does this mean? Grant us what you promised.
Yeah.
Now,
so
this can be heaven. This can be sustenance. This can be anything you want, because there are a lot of promises in the Quran. So if you start interpreting, the sentences, the individual words here, you're going to go crazy, because there's so many different possibilities here. Because grant us, who's us? Now you need to look, well, exactly who's us? Is this only Muslims, or is this non-Muslims too? Because it just says us. Our Lord, grant us what you promised. Well, God promised, for example, that if you pray to Jesus, then you're going to get a table full of food coming down. Now, how come there are children dying of hunger if you can pray to Jesus and you will get a table of food? So there's also something wrong here. You promise us through your messengers. Well, they're always saying that the messengers always said the same thing. Well, they did not. Definitely not. You can't say that all the messengers said, yeah, there's only one God and blah, blah, blah. That is definitely not true. And the messengers, if I take just Jesus and Isa, for example, they're totally different. I mean, the Quran says they're different. So what is it? So if you start interpreting, you get totally different meanings here.
Well, Muslims believe that all the messengers came with the same message. And the Bible and the Torah was corrupted, which is weird, but that's what they believe. In terms of what was promised, because in the next line it talks about the day of resurrection, and this is a prayer actually. Rabbana, usually when you start with something like "Oh Lord," that's a prayer. But the second line where it says, do not disgrace us on the day of resurrection, it indicates that what is promised is probably paradise, and that's what they're talking about.
Yes, or as the chat suggests, raisins.
Yeah, or raisins, yeah. Well, either or. Snacks are good too.
Oh, shit. Okay, did you take some honey?
Did I take some honey?
Yes.
No, I haven't had honey in a long time. The bee industry is really like.
Well, you need it with your voice, because this is a lot of singing.
I need water. I'll recite this and then I'll get some water. فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض فالذين هاجروا واخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ثوابا من عند الله والله عنده حسن الثواب. They're talking about killing and Jannah and burning. That's what I got from that.
Okay, next. Okay, let's see. Let's quickly run through this. The Lord responded to them, "Never will I allow to be lost the work of any worker among you, whether male or female. You are one of another. So those who immigrated or were evicted from their homes or were harmed in my cause or fought or were killed, I will surely remove from them their misdeed, and I will surely admit them to gardens beneath which rivers flow as reward from Allah, and Allah has with them the best reward." Like Trump has the best words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their Lord hath accepted of them and answered them, "Never will I suffer to be lost the work of any." I mean, what? Never will I suffer to be lost. Never will I suffer to be lost. The work of any of you. Ye are members one of another, those who have left their homes or been driven out or suffered harm in my cause, or fought or been slain. Verily, I will blot out from them their iniquities, I don't know, and admit them into gardens with rivers flowing beneath, the reward from the presence of Allah, and from His presence is the best of rewards. What is iniquities? This must be things which are not
like
best.
The sins, iniquities is sins.
Yeah, it's kind of like when people use the phrase "the den of iniquity," they're talking about they come from an environment of wickedness.
Okay. Oh, see, I've just learned something here. See, Islam is teaching me things.
Yeah, well, Yusuf Ali is teaching you things.
I think when you look at it, it's a galvanizing yet again, because he's basically saying that all those, whatever you've done, I'll remember what you've done for my cause. So don't think that anything you're doing in my cause will be lost in vain. It will be remembered. When whether you've been slain or whether you've been driven from your homes, another phrase for that would be, if you've been persecuted. And it says, "I'll blot out all your iniquities." So he's basically giving them like a bargain, for what you've done or what you're about to do. Everything you've done in the past will be forgotten from my perspective. So there's an incentive to keep going.
We've just seen something interesting. Streamlabs is watching. Now, I don't know if Streamlabs, are you a person or are you a bot?
I believe it's a bot.
Please refrain from spamming accounts, because Peter Peterson wrote out of tune, but he wrote it in capitals. Okay, if you're on a phone, it happens. If you push this shift button twice, it can happen. But I've never seen Streamlabs as such come and make a comment. So I wonder if this is what you're saying, a bot. As soon as you get something all in capitals, it will say, "Please refrain from spamming caps."
I mean, you can test it. Just keep spamming caps and see what happens.
I noticed that sort of then it says, "Fighting oppressors and criminals is a noble cause." But who are the criminals and why are they criminals? The fact that you're saying they're criminals, but how do you derive that who Muhammad and his cohorts are fighting are criminals? What crime have they committed for you to turn around and say that they are criminals and that they're fighting for a noble cause?
Yeah, but this is but this is insinuated.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I mean, if you suffer harm in my cause, then that is exactly it. You are seen.
Obviously, if you're going to accept that Islam and the Quran as a reality from God, and you're going to say that this is a religious book, your default would be that whoever Muhammad and his cohorts are fighting are going to be criminals. They have to be, because you can't say that on behalf of Muhammad and his cohorts, his gang. So, so he's making a useless comment. What the point I'm trying to make is, if you're going to call somebody a criminal, if Allah is acting against certain peoples, because as you've said, it's sort of general, they're criminal. You have to help us understand what the crimes committed by these people are, so that we can see why Muhammad's fighting them. Just calling them criminals because they happen to be in opposition to Muhammad doesn't define them as criminals. It just
the Muslim narrative is the reason that they are criminals is because when the Muslims left Mecca to go to Medina, they had to leave their homes, and the reason why they considered the Meccans criminals is because they took all their possessions and sold them in Syria. I think that's the story.
But where is that story based on?
Medina with the Prophet, and after the Prophet, the Meccan unbelievers drove them from their homes in Mecca, and so on and so forth. So yes.
Okay, but where is that? Well, okay, you've got that from. Where's he got that from? Where is that? What's the source? For
where have I got that from? I've got that from the Sirah.
Where's Ibn Abbas get this from?
That's the point.
Ibn Abbas? Ibn Abbas lived in the time of the Prophet. So,
but where does he get this from?
Where does he get it from in the ayah? I don't know, but it was revealed. You have to remember that the Quran was revealed in stages, so it would have been revealed at that time when this was happening.
Okay, I'm a skeptic, all right? I don't buy into that.
No, I know, I get that. I'm just, you know, I'm the messenger here. Don't shoot me.
Yeah, okay. From the story, yes. From the claims, it is claimed that there was a Mecca. There is a claim that they were driven from Mecca to Medina, which can't be verified, substantiated. There's no evidence for this, and therefore, it doesn't really make sense to say, well, I'm inventing an immigration, or whatever you want to call it. Well, he actually was. What do you call it? A fleeing? This was a
refugee and asylum seeker.
This was a tactical retreat from Mecca. Okay. Therefore, now we're saying those who fled from Mecca with the Prophet and after the Prophet drove them from their harms, they will be recompensed. So all those who have suffered because they were driven out by the Meccans, because they were harmed by somebody unjust and by a criminal, and I will then give them a huge reward.
Well, I think Muhammad was trying to paint a narrative. He was trying to paint a narrative and trying to other the Meccans for that. And to be fair, the Muslims were persecuted in Mecca, and they decided to leave due to this persecution, and they had made an alliance with Medina, which is why they moved there with the two tribes, Aus and Khazraj. So they moved there, and this would probably be the context in which the verse was revealed. So you know, that's the story anyway.
But the thing is, you're saying that the Muslims were persecuted. Fine, let's just go along with that narrative. What were the Muslims doing? What was Muhammad doing for him to be persecuted?
Well, he was denying all the other gods in Mecca. That was.
He was being a pain in the ass.
How was he doing that?
He was a pain in the ass for the others.
He was just being a pain in the butt, yeah, but he was talking. That was the main thing.
But how was he talking? Was he talking respectfully or disrespectfully?
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to justify persecution for words.
Neither am I. But when we're saying that he was just talking, and I don't, it doesn't sound natural for people to be, you know, for people to respond in a vicious way to Muhammad. Considering
people do that now with religion. People do that now with blasphemy and religion. Not just Muslims. People, all people do it.
Yeah, I understand that, Faye, but there are also bargains that were I've read in the Hadith or the Sirah where leaders were asking, look, what do you want? Do you want to be our leader? We'll pay you. Just stop talking the way you are about our gods. You know,
yeah, but he was being a pain in the ass about it.
Sorry?
He was being a pain in the ass about it. He said that he didn't want leadership. He just wanted the one God thing. And I think that he definitely had something of a midlife crisis when he thought he saw an angel But there's no denying that, at least according to the Sirah, that the Muslims were being persecuted while they were in Makkah, which is why they had to move. And
Yeah,
I'm giving that as the context for this verse. I'm not saying that it actually happened. I'm not saying that any side was justified. I'm just telling the story.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to get at is his attitude towards them must have been a little bit more than just words. It must have been more in when people respond, in the way that we allegedly here is taking place. There must have been something for them quite serious for them to respond to. Yes, granted, there may have been words, and it would have been words because he was in the minority. But those
Well,
words must have been quite hard-hitting, mocking, and derisory for them to respond or retaliate the way that they had.
So you both agree?
Yeah, I'm trying to. But what I'm saying is that at that time Makkah was extremely tribalistic. It was a trade center, at least according to the Sirah that we have. They saw Muhammad as a potential for losing all their business, because all the idols in the Kaaba brought people from all the other countries to come and make pilgrimage. So they had their reasons, but there is no evidence, at least from the Sirah, to indicate that Muhammad was being, really, really crazy about this one God thing. He was being a pain in the ass. I'm not denying that. He called all the people of Mecca to a mountain and said that there's an army coming, and Abu Lahab really talked him down for that. But I'm not going to sit here and justify persecuting minorities just because of
but I think when Khadija, the originator and the prophet of Islam, the real prophet Islam, was consoling Muhammad when he was having his nightmares and freakish moments after being visited by the angel gibberish, she had to go and get him verified that he was a prophet by, was it Waraka? And he said that Muhammad will be persecuted. It wouldn't surprise me if Muhammad was smart enough to engage or create a situation where he would bring upon persecution for himself, to make it a self-fulfilled prophecy within himself. That his
what is the point of contention here?
The point is, no, I'm not. There is no point of contention. I'm just trying to look at the situation, because it seems that the situation it has been described by the tafsirs later have gone to the other holy books and tried to find like a justification for the persecution, and have embellished it slightly, because Morocco is gone.
I think that when we talk about these sources, when we talk about the Quran, and when we talk about these stories, we have to be objective about them. We can't just find and create evil things out of nowhere. I think we have to look at them objectively to maintain our own integrity. Like I really don't think that trying to find like a contentious issue where there isn't one is helpful in this situation.
I'm not. I'm just trying to understand the situation.
Okay, then can we leave this then? We understand what it says. We understand where the sentence comes from, and we understand what the people who supposedly lived at the time, how they understood this to be. And that's it. That's people are being persecuted. They left, and they will be rewarded for the harm that was done to them because they were standing up for their God. I think that's the message, right? We all agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Saul Pujana says, what the fact does stop spamming buy into? His anal ass tries to scrutinize every word, the pedantic fool. Correct. I do that. Because my understanding is this was written by a God. Now, my expectation of a God is perfection. And I do not see that. So I'm trying to understand every single word that the Quran says, because a lawyer, for example, in court will be very pedantic as well, and try and verify and have a reason for every word. And this is exactly what we should be doing when we read the Quran. We should be expecting perfection. We should be looking at every single little thing, that it should give us some sort of guidance. Okay, if I go and say, well, this is just a la-di-da God who wrote a la-di-da book, then I'm never going to be able to get anything from this, because then I can just say, well, what the fuck am I doing here? This is a book I can ignore. I can do whatever I want. I just call myself a Muslim, and that's it. Now, it doesn't work like that. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to read the book the way that it was intended, the way it was written. We try and let the Quran speak for itself. And that is why I am being the way that I am, and that is the way that I am reading this, and this is why I am anal about this. Yes.
I think it's really important to do that, because your whole thing is that the Quran's meant to be an easy message to read and understand, but it clearly isn't. Just based on the way that we've individually reinterpreted everything. And then we go to the tafsir and it might be talking about something completely different. So yeah, I don't.
Okay, Chintoni show. So being a pain in the butt, using words justified a Muslim woman being stabbed in the vagina with a spear. No, that's not the point. What? Okay, I'm not going to explain it. I mean, it's not the point.
It's not the point. We can move on. Did you want to check Al Jalalain on this? I think he probably has the same thing.
Lord answers some supplication by saying, I do not let the labor any labor among you go to waste, be you male or female. One of you is as the other, that is, are both equal to the women when it comes to immigration, followed by the revealed much forth the disbelievers were slain, then I should surely absolve them of their evil deeds, concealing these with forgiveness, and I shall admit them to the gardens underneath which rivers flow. A reward is reaffirming from God, and God with him is the fairest reward. Okay. Well, it's interesting. He's actually pointing out a grammatical mistake here. Okay, there is a shift of person here, and we, I don't know, we don't even point this out anymore, because there are so many times when this happens. And I will surely means I, God, I in brackets, God will surely admit them. Okay, and then it changes into third person as reward from Allah, third person, not me, because it should be which rivers flow as reward from me, and I have with me the best reward. Okay,
that's
so
really,
because here it says, my cause, I will surely admit, I will surely remove. So we see this, never will I allow, this shift we see a lot of times. I don't even point it out anymore. These are grammatical
really,
errors
really,
where the people, with different people brought the stories, and this is a thunderous point. A lot of people brought together stories from different books, from different centuries, from different parts, from different things, and they were then put together here. And so different people have different styles, and this is what happens here.
I never noticed that before. That's really, really interesting.
Oh, because in the beginning, I always pointed these out, but now it's become, this happens so many times that I don't even point this out anymore, because people who read the Quran, who are used to reading it, don't even notice this anymore, because it's so frequent, it's so common, and they automatically compensate for it. I don't know if you know these examples where you have words where half the letters are missing and you still can read the words and you can still read the sentence. That's exactly what people are doing. They are automatically compensating.
Yeah,
So
it's just
it's
your
quite funny
brain
that
figuring.
the Tafsir points
It's
it
just
out.
your brain seeing patterns and just filling in the blanks.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. So there are so many. I mean, people, Muslims will say, "Show me a mistake in the Quran." Well, this is a mistake. It's a mistake. If I give this as an essay in an English class, the teacher is going to mark it as a mistake.
Yep, I agree. That is a really interesting mistake. That I'm going to note that down for later.
Anyway, so I don't even look at this anymore, because it's happened so frequently that I just, it's very rare that I see it in a tafsir being pointed out. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, you didn't notice this in the Arabic, because it must somehow do this.
Let me
Because
see
I can see and Allah. So in other words, it speaks of Allah in the third person, and here it says I. So yeah.
At the end, he does refer to himself in the third person, but tajri, it's like for himself, like that ya on the end of the word. That means that he's referring to himself in the first person, but then it shifts. I didn't notice that when I was reading it, but I think it's like what you said. Like when you read it frequently and it just keeps happening, I think your brain just picks up on it and it just it translates it immediately. To make it make sense, which is wow, I'm gonna need to think about that.
Okay,
That's
we'll see it. We'll
really
see it a lot of times.
interesting.
I don't even pick it up anymore either. I don't point it out either because it's so frequent. It's it's not even worth it. Okay, here's a short one for you.
Oh, Rob has just
Yeah, he's
messaged us saying that he probably
not going
won't.
to join us. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't feel sorry for anybody who has too much work.
Says Ya la ghurrannakum. You think that's everyone's own fault?
No, because I'm self-employed, so I have to run after work. Okay, and
Okay.
it's quite tough at times the way that people treat me, because they will say to me, okay, you will start on Monday, and we are counting on you because we really need to make those changes. We really need to have somebody come in and look at this. And then on Friday they will call and say, oh no, forget it, we're not doing this. The money has been cancelled. And I'm sitting there high and dry because I'm getting ready for Monday. I've already looked at the company. I've already invested stuff. And then they're telling me, no, fuck you, go away, go home. And I think that's, but that's the way that it is today, you see? That's why I'm not sorry if somebody has too much work.
Oh.
All right, so this says, be not deceived.
Let me read it. لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد. That's a really okay. Be not deceived by
kafirun.
Kafirun, yeah. By the
Be not
disbelievers.
deceived by the movements of the kafirun throughout the land. So be not deceived by the movement of the atheists. Actually, disbelievers are sometimes, and again, this is down to interpretation. What is a disbeliever? Number one, disbelieve is an act. It's an active thing. So if I, as a person, do not believe that gods exist, this is not active. This is passive. So I'm not a disbeliever. I'm a non-believer. So this is the number one thing that is already wrong here. Then you look at the disbeliever themselves. What is a disbeliever? This can be a Jew, this can be a Christian, this can be a pagan, this can be an atheist. So there are different possibilities here, and there are different versions when these sentences are applied.
Okay, so I have a few things to say about the use of the word. So kafaru, that is a verb, that is not a noun. So kuffar is disbelievers, that is the plural. Kafir is one, kuffar is plural. Kafaru,
active.
That is not a noun, that is a verb. And I don't know why they've made that make sense. But the other thing is, someone who is a kafir, in general use, it means anyone who's not a Muslim. It doesn't matter any other distinction. But in technical terms, it is, wait, is that the third person male plural verb? Kafara. Yeah, kafara. That kafir. That's, yeah. But kafaru, as far as I know, is not, unless it's only referring to men. That's I've never seen it used like that.
Okay, but the thing is, this is past. So people who disbelieved, and they are making exactly my point here, because they're saying it's active. It's an active verb. It's not passive, me not believing. These are people who actively are covering the truth. This is what the original meaning is of kafir, okay?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the translators have translated it to mean disbelievers, when that's not what it says.
Those who disbelieved,
yeah,
are the disbelievers.
I guess, but it's still not.
Yeah, it's not correct. It's not. Yeah, here also the unbeliever. Okay, it's not a literal translation, and I'm sure if you go to others, you will pick it up. I mean, who's the one who normally does it quite well? Pickfeld, for example. If we take Pickfeld, let us not visit those who No, he also does this. Okay.
Yeah. So those who have disbelieved, but it's that's the only thing I wanted to comment on.
Do you want to what's the story behind this?
It's probably the same thing as
you need to interpret this. I mean, this doesn't make sense.
Be not deceived by the uninhibited movement of the disbelievers throughout the land.
Yeah, but there's not doing the cha-cha.
Let not the strutting about of the unbelievers through the land. Are they chickens?
Allah then reminded them of the another word, evanescence of his world and of the continuity of the hereafter, and encouraged them to seek the latter, saying that let not the vicissitude or the success of those who disbelieve in the land, the coming and going of the Jews for trade, deceive this. Although Muhammad is here the addressee, this is directed at his companions.
Yeah.
So this is talking at Muhammad, but it's not talking at Muhammad. It's talking at somebody else, saying that the Jews are coming to deceive you. Oh my
Yeah.
God. This is
Well,
crazy.
that's just a general narrative in the Quran, unfortunately. But
Yes. When the Muslims
this
began to say, look at the enemies of God, how comfortable they are while we are struggling,
Wait.
the following was revealed. Let it not delude you that the disbelievers go to and fro in the land, engaging in commerce and acquiring profit. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, and now, actually, what I should do, I should go to my favorite. Where do I have my favorite translation here? This is 196. Just to explain this to those who have not watched Gin and Tonic Show, I have another translation of an American guy from Tucson, Arizona. He has a different version. What he does is he translated the Quran encompassing a tafsir. In other words, he explains what he what he translates. So what he says this means is, do not be impressed by the apparent success of the disbelievers. And then he explains it. You see, because he incorporates the tafsir. This is why sometimes it's quite useful to read what he writes, because even though it's not a real translation as such, you understand it better. Because be not deceived by the movement of the disbelievers. This can be anything. So you need to interpret this, and you need to know the story behind it. We're talking about the people who are coming and trading.
In the other tafsir, it specifically referenced the Jews. Did it by any chance mention which Jews they were talking about?
Let's skip Kathir. He says, days of few trading in the idolaters of Mecca.
Okay, so we have conflicting accounts then.
Yes. The scholars don't agree what we're talking about here. The enemies of God, the people in Mecca, or the Jews. So we can, this is just the coming and going of the Jews. No, it doesn't say what type.
Okay.
So we have, and this is brilliant. This is beautiful. This is just as we were talking about it. This shows that even the scholars, the people who know exactly what the language is, what is being talked about here, who have all this background information, they are interpreting this completely different.
Yeah.
This is brilliant to see this, at work, just when we are talking about the different versions and the different, interpretations. This is a tiny sentence. And look how much the tafsirs are talking about this, page after page after page after page, about this one tiny sentence, and they come to totally different conclusions.
Which goes back to what I've said in previous comments about the tafsir. There is no historical basis for some of the conclusions that they draw, so they have to pad it out by reading other holy texts, because by now they're literate people when they're writing this down, so they're probably looking at other holy texts, the Bible or the Talmud, and they're trying to derive some situation that's already written or similar that they can then superimpose or graft into this situation now. We've seen it happen before.
And Muslims are incapable of actually explaining this, because you have so many different versions and possibilities. There's no objective way of translating this. It was quite funny what is happening in the chat. I just no, thank you, I'm not good at maths. Okay. Now, why is this Muslim saying he's not good at maths? Well, this is why. He doesn't know how to 2/3, 1/6, and 1/6.
Yeah.
And he says he's not good at maths because he can't add up 2/3 and 1/3 and 6/3. Oh, this is amazing. All right. So this is, I don't know, to people, the uninitiated, this is the what the mistake in the Quran that you cannot refute because you can't interpret it. There is no interpretation for 1/3. It's 1/3. There is no different way of seeing it, but they are fractions of the devil. So you can't interpret a sixth, all right? A sixth is a sixth. There's no other way. So you can't do anything. And if this is in the Quran, then yeah, I know it's fine.
The issue with this problem is that the Quran is meant to be a clear message, and it clearly isn't a clear message, and it can't do maths.
Exactly.
So you're arguing a point that can't be refuted because it's a mathematical point. There's one answer to that question.
And there's no way to go around it. You can't. It's irrefutable. Okay, another short one.
متاع قليل ثم مأواهم جهنم وبئس المهاد. This is about hell. It is
Yeah,
more
you see another short sentence, and the people don't even know what it means because you have words in here: an enjoyment, little, then their abode, hell, a wretched resting place.
I think he's talking about that the present life is going to be for a short, it's a blip, but they have an eternity in hell for their actions of denying Muhammad.
Okay, let me just switch on the corpus to see what the sentence is. It says, an enjoyment little, then their abode hell, wretched resting place. This is the sentence in the Quran. This is what the Quran is telling us as guidance, which is clear, easy to understand, and easy to remember. An enjoyment little, abode, wretched resting place. Okay. Can anybody make any sense of this?
Yeah, I think for me, when I read that, it's like little is for the enjoyments, their ultimate abode is hell. For me, it's like he's referring to the current life course on earth is transient, it's momentary. So they're having a momentary enjoyment in this life, but they're not saving anything with Allah. And because they're not doing that, they're going to go to hell for their actions. They're going to go to hell as kuffar or kufaru or kafir. That's
you know what this is?
Huh?
This is a continuation of the previous sentence.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. But it is a continuation. It's be not deceived by the joy of the believers.
Yeah.
Because
the enjoyment is little.
Enjoyment, but then they will go to hell.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Sundan 2 was just talking about. That they might initially have this joy.
Yeah.
Then finally they will go to hell, and that is not a nice place.
I think refuge is a weird word to describe hell with, though. Don't you think so? Like it's not a refuge.
It is but a brief comfort, it is but a paltry benefit for life in this world, and afterwards the habitation will be hell, and ill abode, ill spread, and
Even said it's so much better than that.
So the people, and that's a good point, exactly. So the people are better at writing than the Quran. Okay. Oh boy.
Agreed. That's wow. I can't believe Ibn Abbas was alive at that time. I can't believe he bought that verse when he can write a better one. It's strange.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I need to get water. Please recite slowly.
Can you scroll up a little bit? I can't see the full verse. He's gone. Thank you. لكن الذين اتقوا ربهم لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها نزلا من عند الله وما عند الله خير للأبرار. Back. He's not back yet.
I just got the wrong button. Okay, but those who fear their Lord will have gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding eternally therein as accommodation from Allah. Let's try it again. But those who feared their Lord, in other words, not those who disbelieved, will have gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding eternally therein as accommodation from Allah. And that which is with Allah is best for the righteous. Yusuf Ali says this means, on the other hand, for those who fear their Lord are gardens with rivers flowing beneath. Therein are they to dwell forever, a gift from the presence of Allah, and that which is in the presence of Allah is the best for the righteous.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the grand finale. Don't be fooled by the people who have a short orgasm. It's those who don't and abstain. They are the ones who should be blessed. Yeah.
Did you stop? So did you originally read like those who feared their Lord to be like the unbelievers? Did you think that that's what that
yes,
meant?
Yes, I got it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Islam is one of those faiths where you have to kind of fear God, otherwise it doesn't work out.
Yeah, but it's the most righteous, the most kind, the most everything merciful Lord, and then but he's going to punish you like shit.
Yeah, you got to fear him.
And you fear. Actually, I don't know. You were not here yet. When there are actually sentences which says you must fear your Lord. Really, literally.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, I think this is very clear. The only thing I don't understand is what is the garden underneath the river, beneath which a river flows? What is the point of having a river be underneath the garden?
I don't know. I guess like in Arabia where they don't have any water, rivers are like a fantasy thing. So yeah, and there are different kinds of rivers in Jannah. Rivers that are made of milk, rivers that are made of honey, rivers that are made of wine that doesn't make you drunk, which to me is pointless. But I mean,
yeah, but wine is the handiwork of the devil.
I thought the rivers in heaven that are made of wine don't give headache.
No,
they don't make you drunk. That's what the rivers in heaven do. They're just
whatever. But they are the devil's handiwork. So I wonder what the devil was doing installing rivers of wine there.
It's really wine if it doesn't get you drunk, because the whole point of drinking wine is the sugar turned into alcohol content.
I know, but I guess for Muslims who've never drank before, they wouldn't understand the appeal of wine, so they would just assume that it's a good thing because God's telling them about it.
So it should be really grape juice.
It's just rotten grape juice, yeah. That's for anyone who hasn't drank wine before in the chat. There is no benefit to it besides getting drunk. Like that is the point of wine.
Then you go and become a Muslim and pray. Maybe you will get rewarded. Ask and thou will receive. Oh, this is cute. Oh, goodness. All right. Okay, is there anything else that we need to know about this?
Not really. It's throwaway.
Oh, goodness. Sorry, Faye.
It's fine. وَإِنَّ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَمَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنْزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أُنْزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ خَاشِعِينَ وما أنزل إليهم خاشعين لله لا يشترون بآيات what does that say بآيات الله ثمنا قليلا أولئك لهم أجرهم عند ربهم إن الله سريع الحساب. I need to update my Specsavers apparently.
Okay, now tell us what you just read.
So what I just read? I don't know. I slipped up so many times. وَإِنَّ مِن min ahlil kitabi, so from the people of the book, laman yu'minu billahi, So those who believed in Allah, وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ. I'm not sure what that means.
Okay,
Then
Sahih
it's talking
International
about,
says, he
yeah,
totally disagrees with you. He says, indeed, among the people of the scripture are those who believe in Allah and what was revealed to you
yeah,
and what was revealed to them, humbly submissive to Allah. They
okay,
do not exchange the verses of Allah for a small price.
yeah.
Those will have their reward with their Lord. Indeed, Allah is swift in accounting.
Okay, so this is clearly a Makki verse. So this verse would have been revealed in Makkah, and this is like a friendly people of the book verse. This is when Muhammad liked the people of the book. So
So,
those would be
among the
Muslims and
people of the
Christians.
scripture, the people of the scripture, the scripture is not Harry Potter or something. I think he's talking about Torah and Injil.
Bible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are those so? There are people who follow. Okay, there's Jews and Christians who believe in God and what was revealed to you, and to them. Who is you and who is them?
So to you would be the Muslims, and to them would be the people of the book. So they got a different revelation, which is what this verse is trying to say.
Humbly submissive to Allah. No, it's a different Allah.
This is what
I mean, we have
this
three
is what
different
I'm
gods.
trying to this is what I'm trying to explain. So when Muhammad started his message, he was friendly to Jews and Christians because he was trying to gain
Yeah.
support. So he tried to play off Allah as the same God. But after he moved to Medina and the Jewish tribes didn't accept him as the new prophet, he kind of became a little bit vindictive of them. Little is understating it. He became very vindictive of them. But initially, while he was in Makkah and he only had like 40 or so followers, he was trying to make friends of Jews and Christians. So this was like a friendly people of the book, Ahle Kitab verse.
Yeah, but what about them?
This is him by saying that there are people of the scripture who believe in Allah. Like he's trying to
Okay,
make
great.
friends.
All right, and then
Nothing else. That's it. He's just trying to make friends with them. That's
okay,
it.
and then the next sentence.
So what was revealed to you and what was revealed to them, and they're humbly submissive to Allah. I'm not sure why he added that bit in there, like
He's
the
trying to
revelation bit.
He's trying to win them over, isn't he? He's trying to suck up to them, saying, "Look, we're all in it together. I'm I'm a prophet in the same line as the prophets that you already follow. If you read your book, you'll find me in there. I'm prophesied, so to speak." So he's trying to appeal to them through the fact that from their book they will perceive him as a prophet from the Son of God.
And
Even if
remember
it's
a
not
couple of
true.
shows ago, where we were talking about this word exchange, and we were talking about people exchanging their faith for a small price or whatever. They reused that part here, and they said that they do not exchange the verses of Allah for a small price.
Thank you.
This might be in reference to Waraka bin Nawfal, who actually Muhammad saw soon after he had his revelation at the cave of Hira. But I don't know. You can look into the tafsir about that. But yeah, he was a Christian. He was like the cousin of Khadija. He was a Christian somebody or
Yeah,
other.
he was the one that wasn't he the old man who died a couple of weeks after the experience that Muhammad first had. And he tried to say that Muhammad is a prophet. He will be persecuted. He confirmed basically Muhammad's prophethood.
Yep, he really enabled that mental disease that Muhammad had.
Didn't he say to me about the lump between the shoulder blades, and that's what confirmed Muhammad's prophethood because he's got a lump between his shoulder blades?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not being mentioned here.
Did they mention Negus from Abyssinia? I think I saw that somewhere. So that was a different part of the story where they were spreading Islam in Abyssinia, which is currently modern day Ethiopia, and the king actually converted to Islam. So that might be in reference to that, but they were a Christian nation at the time.
And Allah that is revealed to the Quran of Scripture and Torah, humbly, meek, vis-a-vis Allah and worship, Poultry recommends a means of living by hiding the trace of description of Muhammad in the scripture. Okay. I've heard of this claim of putting the description of Muhammad in the scripture, but this is not the case. I know it's been claimed in the Quran as well, but it's another mistake in the Quran.
Yeah.
So again, this doesn't say anything. It's another, like, come on, let's all be pally and let's all go together and blah blah blah. And mine's just a little bit better than yours, and that this is why you should come over to my side.
Yeah.
Can I just bring something else up about the selling? It points out there.
Sure, because that is a big mystery for me. What this actually is supposed to give to people.
Allah will not sell the signs of Allah for a miserable gain. I'm sure, if I remember correctly, a few years ago when I looked at this, Muhammad was buying stories, because I think in other translations, do not sell your stories for a paltry price. Muhammad was buying stories because he couldn't read. So he was getting Jewish reciters to recite parts of the Bible or whatever scripture he was listening to. He was paying for that to happen. So that's where the point, I think it's one of the hadith, do not sell your signs for a paltry price. And then there's the other, I think it's the hadith that talks about Muhammad is all ears. He would believe anything that you tell him. Do you remember that one, Stops? Or Faye?
I remember that, yes.
So there are other things that talk about when you put it together, you get the sense of Muhammad was buying stories, believing everything that he heard. Because when you go later on in the Quran, it talks about these are the stories of old. He's repeating stories.
Yeah, we went through this and we said, okay, these are actually the storytellers who went from village to village, and you had to pay them, and they came back quite wealthy. So this is this story that we talked about in the past. Because it doesn't make sense to exchange verses of Allah. The way that it works is you tell the storyteller to change the story a little bit, and then you pay him for it. That's the way that I think it works.
So it seems to me it's alluding, for me when I read that, it seems to be alluding to something that he's been doing by buying stories.
Could be.
Yeah.
Now, the sword to Jana says, the Gin and Tonic show, you realize this is a forgery attributed to him, right? Look, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What is important is that this is a collection that is being accepted by most Muslims as being an interpretation of what the Quran says. Who is the author, whom it is being attributed to? It doesn't really matter. What is important is what it says and whether it explains anything about the contents of the book. And what we've seen is that none of these people, when there is even the shortest of sentences, agree what these short sentences actually say and what they convey, what message they convey. That is what is important. It doesn't matter whether somebody is a forgery, or whether somebody is being wrongly attributed with something. That's not important. The same thing with the hadith. People are telling me, well, this hadith has a bad isnad. Okay, it's not important. The question for me is it in Sahih Muslim and in Sahih Bukhari? If so, it means that a lot of Muslims actually believe this. There are people, and I heard this from Adnan Rashid. He said, I want the hadiths of Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari being taken as scripture, as good as, in the same vein, in the same kind of elevation. There's not a limit in the degrees or something. No, they need to be part of this whole thing of the scripture, and you can't do that because they are so full of nonsense. They are so full of absolute stupidity, and they are contradicting each other and the Quran. That's why you can't do that. And for me, what is important is not whether it is not as bad. For me, is important is, do Muslims believe this? And that's why you get the Quran is to actually realize it now and are looking at this and saying, no, we can't take the hadith as being authentic. We go only with the Quran. The problem is you can't technically do that. That is why they need to invent now things from the Quran. They need to completely rewrite the entire book and reinterpret it to make any sense. And that is the way that it works. And these are the problems that we have with Islam. It's not whether somebody is given something or some level of integrity in translating it. That's not the point. The point is, what do people believe? What do they make of it? And what actions do they derive from it?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Although I've never heard, I mean, I didn't typically refer to Ibn Abbas when I was a Muslim. Typically, we'd refer to Ibn Kathir or Al-Jalalain. But you're right, it doesn't really matter because people read it regardless. But no, when I was a Muslim, I used to refer to Ibn Kathir and Al-Jalalain the most.
Okay.
Ibn Abbas just wasn't the one that we referred to, but you are right in saying that if Muslims are reading it, then they're believing it.
And if anybody comes and says, well, we should be rejecting it, be my guest. I don't care. If you say Sahih Bukhari should be scrapped altogether because it's unreliable, I don't have a problem with that. If you tell me Ibn Abbas should be scrapped because he's unbelievable, unreliable, be my guest. I don't care. It's no skin off my nose. The way that it works is Muslims decide. If you have the ulama, if you have some sort of I don't know, consensus that everybody says, well, Ibn Abbas is one of our great scholars and is one of those, well, then so be it. It's not for me to decide. It's the ulama, not me.
Yeah.
Off you go. €1. Here we go. Cling.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. There's a lot of adjectives.
Wow. Okay, but this is now what Rob is always saying. You can't always take this literally. You can't always take the words to be exactly like this because it has to rhyme. It has to be in the form of poetry and things like that. But then again, I'm anal here. Yes, I am, because this is a God. And the God should be able to do anything. He should be able to make the worst words into something beautiful and poetic. And here, clearly, it's failing.
Well, he's used, so sabr means patience. He's used two different adjectives for patience, which is silly. I don't know. Like as someone who's read plenty of, sorry.
Exactly. Persevere. Oh, you have believed, persevere, and endure and remain stationed.
Yeah.
And fear Allah that you may be successful. Yusuf Ali says, "O ye who believe, persevere, patience, and constancy, vie in such perseverance." There you go. Strengthen each other and fear Allah that ye may prosper. Okay.
I mean,
anybody want to volunteer a different kind of interpretation or translation of this?
But also when you add on to that, when you look at it grammatically and the poetic rhyme and everything, if you was to put that to the side, remember this book is uncreated. It's been in heaven since even before time came into existence. What do these words, how do these words actually benefit? If there is a benefit here, what is the benefit? How is there a benefit? What is the advantage or advancement or improvement in one's lot in life if this is supposed to be an eternal book of guidance?
Exactly. How do you reconcile this? Yeah. And anal is meticulous. There is a different meaning altogether. It's not, just for once, I'm being totally asexual here. Next, or is there anything else anyone wants to add?
No, it's a stupid verse with 3 words for perseverance in there.
Okay, make more out of this one then.
Are we on An-Nisa now? Have we finished Ali Imran?
Oh, shucks. Thank you. Well done. That was the last one.
Ah, we did it. We through one of the most painful chapters in the Quran.
And it ends with a really painful sentence.
Oh, that is such an anal sentence. You really need perseverance for that. And loads of lube. Like, he really lubed up that verse with the perseverance.
Oh dear.
I feel BDSM reading this. This is the next one, right? Okay, we have. Okay, just to make it, just to ram it home, there's actually hadiths related to this. Okay, so this is from the Muwatta Malik.
Yeah.
This is not even one of the two. Yahya this is a famous. Okay, doesn't matter. Related to me from Malik, from Yahya ibn Said, that he heard something that when people in military expeditions divided the spoil, they made a camel equal to 10 sheep. And Malik said about the paid laborer in military expeditions, if he is present at the battle and is with the people in the battle, and he is a free man, he has his share. If he's not present, he has no share. Oh, that's amazing. Malik summed up, I think that the booty is only divided among free men who have been present at the battle. Okay, I think.
What kind of story is that? It had no. Oh, it's annoying.
If he's not present, he has no share. I think you can only get the same thing, just the other way around. Okay, Malik said about enemy soldiers who were found on the seashores of the Muslim land, and they claimed that they were merchants and that the sea had driven them ashore, while the Muslims were not able to verify any of that, except that their ships were damaged or they were thirsty and had disembarked without the permissions of the Muslim. I think that is up to the Imam to give his opinion about them. I do not think that the tax of one earth is taken from them.
What has this got to do with the verse, though? It's talking. It was about perseverance. They're talking about war booty. Like,
okay, can I give one better? I do not see that there's any harm in the Muslims eating whatever food they come across
in enemy territory before the spoils are divided.
I think.
But why is Malik saying that? Who is Malik?
He's the
faqih, like Imam Malik. Like,
yes.
Is that who we're talking about?
He's a scholar.
Okay, but why? Where did he get this from? How is this in relation to the verse?
I'm actually trying to think what. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. Sorry. What this is supposed to be? I don't have any idea. Hang on. Let me just try and get this page back. How do I do that? This doesn't have a history function. Okay, there we go. So it's back.
Okay.
There we go. And, you have belief, persevere, endure, remain stationed, and fear Allah that you may be successful. This means that 10 sheep is equal to 1 camel.
Are we doing anal with animals now? Is that what?
It's obvious. Come on, can't you see it?
Oh, that's so stupid.
Okay.
So the story is that some people washed up on shore, and Imam Malik was like, "You can eat their animals," and that's what this verse means.
It seems like it. This is why there's a reference to this. Okay, the tafsir is the condition of some of the people, and note there's only two. It's only Ibn Kathir.
Yep.
They do not sell, they do not hide those who gave scripture. Okay, so there's no believe it qualities of the Jews. Shirk with the Christians because they say for them. Okay, even he doesn't go anywhere near there. Faith that there is a prophet.
Yeah, I don't know where Imam Malik was coming from when he said all that about this verse.
Should you be more patient as under should I tell the actions the enemy of the hadith? This is where the hadith comes from. The devil also others da. There's nothing here. There's nothing here. And Maududi says the word sabiru in the original Arabic text implies two things. show more valor in fighting for the right cause than that which the disbelievers are showing for a wrong cause, and vie with one another in showing valor in your fight with the disbelievers.
See, that at least makes sense.
Okay. And that concludes Quran chapter 3.
Yep. That was a painful experience, that last verse. That, I don't know what that's about. Like, maybe I can accept the rest of it coming from God, but not that last verse.
This is the best way. All right. Any other comments on what we have read today? Thunderdew Good, what's up?
Nothing. No, I just think that much of what was discussed tonight in the ayat has been very much a rinse and repeat of what has already been said previously. So I didn't have much to say because it has already been said in previous weeks and months on the show. So I felt that was probably more appropriate for Faye to have her introduction. But we're going to get to the meat from next week. Really, it's when the Quran really starts to heat up.
Yeah. So, Tujana, why don't you come here and talk to us about this? Because if you know what the Quran says, maybe you can explain it to us. Because I have real problems here to take any of this serious. It really, it's very difficult to sort of come to terms with the claim that this is a God who tells people, this is the guidance that you need. This is the book. This is the only book you will ever need. So if you end up on an island and somebody, flies by on a helicopter and throws down this book, then this is what keeps you alive for the rest of your life? Is this really? Come on.
To be fair, I think Ali Imran is probably a Makki surah, and Makki surahs are painful like that because all they talk about is about the believers and the disbelievers and paradise and hell. Like that's all they really talk about. And that was the first 10 years of Islam, so that's real pain in the butt material. So that's what they're like. But An-Nisa is really, really interesting because that's where a lot of the rulings come in. So I think that would be a better read than the third chapter. At least it'd be a bit more interesting. It has a bit more meat to it.
Yeah, there's more stuff in it. Correct. Yeah, because this, I mean, for me, the one thing that's stuck in my mind is the constant repetition of this is now a covenant. This is the new covenant. This is the next covenant. It's never a covenant. It always calls it a covenant, but it never is. And this says, well, according to this, the Jews have to do this, the Jews have to do this, the Jews have to do this. What is the point? It's not guidance for the Jews. It's guidance for the Muslims. Don't tell the Jews what they have to do. Tell the Muslims what they have to do. And then if it's something good, then maybe the Jews will pick it up because they say, hey, this is better than what we are doing. So let's do it like that. Instead of making the Jews look bad, he should go and make the Muslims look good.
Muhammad was just desperate for support at this point. So that's what he was doing. He was just trying to pander to them, and they weren't really taking it.
This is like L. Ron Hubbard, okay, when he was trying to get more money, and that is, let's start a religion. There you go. That's what he's just doing.
Well, they weren't taking it because they're educated people. They can look at their text and see that the identity of Muhammad did not fit the profile that was required for a prophet as far as the Bible's concerned.
Yeah, of course not. Genitalic show, is it true Faye is going to debate Kenny Bomber? Faye, are you going to debate Kenny Bomber?
Sign me up for. Who is Kenny Bomber?
Exactly. You don't even know who this guy is.
Who is Kenny Bomber?
This is a guy. He calls himself an imam. And he doesn't know very much about Quran or Islam or anything. He came here one day and he said, well, you were talking about Sharia and everything you said was wrong. I said, oh, great. All right. Can you tell us something that was wrong? What would be right? Or why this was wrong and what would be better? Oh, no, I can't remember that. I said, so what is the point of you coming here and telling us everything is wrong if you can't tell us what was wrong? Yeah, well, it was wrong. Yeah, but what was wrong about it? Well, I don't know that. Okay.
But stop. You're moderator when I debate Nadir Ahmed, remember?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. When that comes through, fine.
I
The
mean,
thing is that I then had a couple of discussions with Kenny Bowmer, and he's somebody. If you tell him, okay, can you tell me, like we were talking about, like the embryo in the womb, because he claimed in the beginning that there was embryology, which later then he had to admit, no, there's no embryology in the Quran. Then I said, okay, then can you tell me the 4 elements that you need, basically, of 1, 2, 3, 4? Can you show me where they are mentioned in the Quran? And he can't do that, because he always comes like this. Well, what sentence in the Quran do you have a problem with? And I said, no, that's not my approach. I'm not here to disprove your Quran. You have to show that your Quran is correct. You have to show me that the Quran, with its claim that it is correct, is actually doing that. It's not the other way around. So you need to tell me that the Quran is correct by telling me if it talks about the creation of a human being by a creator, then it's fine. Then I have no point. I have no, there's nothing to it. Then this is creation. But if you're telling me it is correct, it is portraying reality, well, I'm sorry, then we have to go and use a different yardstick, because now we're talking about reality. So what you have to do now is to show me that actually what happens in reality is reflected in the Quran. And he can't do that.
Well, I mean, to answer that question, I don't typically debate people, because I think that the term debate is very loosely used nowadays.
Yeah.
I feel like any argument on Twitter is just framed as a debate. That's not what a debate is. And I mean, I'm happy to have a conversation if that's what you want to do, but debate, I feel like, would have to be in person.
Faye, debates are a waste of time. They're absolutely a waste of time. All you're doing there is watching a verbal boxing match. People go to a boxing match to support the guy that they want to win. In a debate, it's much the same thing. The audience are there to support their guy. They're not going to listen to the counter arguments proposed by the other guy. And they won't listen to it, they won't hear it, they won't research it. They're there to support their guy.
Yeah, but what I was doing is I was actually addressing the people who are listening on the side of Kenny, because I was saying, look, this is reality. And this is the way that it is described by the hero that you normally have. And I was using exactly Dr. Moore's book to bring in the name, which they normally take as a defensive line. And I was using it as a supporter of my side, which is there is no embryology in the Quran. And I showed this in Dr. Moore's book. So what I was doing is I was showing his listeners, his side, listen, what you are doing is you're looking at a YouTube video where I have his books. He's written, I don't know how many, like 10 or 12 different books, who have, and he's been, like cited left, right, and center. Those books are textbooks. There's a lot of contents in there. It's just that he made a sidestep. I believe he was paid a lot of money to go and do that. That he, gave Bin Laden the permission to use the 3rd edition, which was picked up by Zindani and then modified to include the Quranic verses. But the Moore books are all saying that the Quran is a myth. And that is what they cannot refute. And that is why I was going to the audience and telling them, look, read the book.
Of course, but you know as well as I do that yes, nobody or hardly anybody will go and research the points that you raised. This is why I think sometimes the debate is a waste of time with Muslims, because
but you see, that's what I did. I first said this is reality, this is the way that it works, and here's what the Quran says. So I also showed the other side what I expected from the Quran and what it actually said.
But how many people do you think you influenced on that debate?
I have no idea.
Do you feel confident that anybody would have taken any notice?
I don't know. I mean, if somebody is honest, if somebody watches and starts thinking and says, hang on, what the hell's going on? Like I said last week with the mosque, there were some people there who suddenly started noticing, oops, there is a problem here. Now, you know this and I know this. A lot of people will simply manage to somehow sweep this under the rug.
Yeah.
But it's planting a seed. It's
I
planting the
think
seed. That's what I'm
I
trying to
don't
do.
think there's anything wrong with spreading knowledge. Just because you have a debate and maybe no one will take away anything, I don't think you lose anything from that. I think as long as you enjoy doing it and you do it, that's fine. I'm just saying that I'm more than willing to have a conversation, a live conversation even, but not a debate. I don't want to start a screaming match, which is often what happens.
I agree with that. That's why I was much more relaxed doing a chat with him, just a discussion.
Yeah.
Much better, but they don't like it. They want to, because what Kenny is a liar. Okay, he's incredibly dishonest. What he did is he changed the topic of the debate, and he keeps on telling me, yeah, but I told you about it. No, he didn't. He didn't. He never once informed me that he was changing the topic of the debate. All of a sudden, what he did is he sent me a photo of the debate poster or whatever this was supposed to be. And there he changed embryology to human development. And then what he did, instead of talking about embryology, which was the topic that we agreed on, he started preaching what the Quran said about all the different versions of human development. That's how dishonest this guy is.
That's what they all do. That's what they all do. But that's why I'd be more than welcome to do a conversation rather than a debate. I feel as though when you do a debate, it pits two people against each other. And like I talk with Islamists all the time. I think that it's interesting for me to talk because it's like a refresher course of what Islam is. It just keeps my knowledge up to date. But yeah, I'm always happy to just talk to somebody, but I don't want to get in an argument with someone. That's the only thing.
Okay.
I'm a screaming
Kenny
match.
is getting what he wants right now. People are talking about him. Yeah, sure. It's talking about him. I mean, he's also a narcissist, absolutely. But the point is that mocking somebody is not exactly what that person would want, I would imagine. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just about the way that somebody, I don't know if this is now starting a rumor or something, that you were supposed to debate Kenny. I mean, you would make mincemeat out of him like easily in a few seconds, because he doesn't know Quran or Islam. He just parrots things. He goes to an online university which is not even accredited. I asked them, can you come here and show us Islam? And they said, yeah, give us €1,500 and then we will come and do whatever you want. I said, yeah, brilliant. I mean, if you're that kind of an idiot, then sorry, no.
Yeah. That's silly.
So there we go. All right. This was the whole point. We've reached end of chapter 3. I'm very happy about that.
Awesome.
Mocking is not helping. I think mocking is helping. I think ridiculing is helping, because it gets people into an elevated state of attention. Because if you say, well, there could be something that could be expressed in a little bit different way, yeah, that's fine. But if I say, yes, that's what a lot of nonsense, then people are more likely to listen. Yes, it's more confrontative, I agree, and a lot of people get very defensive over this, even if they were in principle not that much positive towards something, that they will and can get defensive. Absolutely, that's possible. I agree with that, and I'm willing to take the risk, but I really do prefer the confrontative way. I think it gives me more satisfaction or whatever.
I try to work from kindness most of the time, I think.
Say again, sorry?
I try to work from kindness most of the time.
No, I want to punish people because I'm anal.
You want to punish people? Okay.
I'm trying to create a reputation. Don't make me laugh now. They ruin everything.
You already have a reputation for being anal.
Yeah, but this is only from today. Don't destroy it. Come on.
Your street cred is all stops as anal.
Let's have a reputation of being anal than doing anal.
Hadith of the week. Hadith of the week. Let's talk about Muhammad. This is why hadith should not be part of scripture, okay? Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. A man decided that a slave of his, oh, there's no slaves. I don't know what we want to call this now. A worker, an employee.
No.
A man
Call
decided
a
that
slave
his
a slave.
employee, a man decided that his employee would be manumitted. Oh shit, you can't manumit an employee. Okay, a man decided that a slave of his would be manumitted after his death. And later on, he was in need of money. So the Prophet took the slave and said, who will buy this slave from me? Naim bin Abdullah bought him for such and such a price, and the Prophet gave him the slave.
That's
But
fucked up.
Muhammad never had slaves. He never traded in slaves. There's no slavery in Islam. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, a man decided that an employee of his would be fired after his death, and later on he was in need of money. So the Prophet
sold the guy,
paid the salary for this employee and said, who will take the salary of this employee from me? And Naim bin Abdullah then paid the salary of such and such a price, and the Prophet then allowed the employee to change companies to work for Abdullah henceforth.
Jesus, that was painful.
That is what you're supposed to believe. What this thing says.
Stops. I need you to stop. It's time to stop.
And this is after soda water. You should see me after beer. Oh, goodness, this was good fun. Okay. Guys,
Muhammad Akbar just said the Satanists and the Illuminati want atheism to push for nihilism.
Yeah, probably. Of course. That's why I'm here. I'm actually supporting nihilism. Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
My paycheck hasn't come in from them yet. I'm really disappointed about that.
No, when we were really popular, I mean, we used to have thousands. We used to have really high-profile guests on in the beginning. When this was more popular. Now it's just like a couple of dozen, but not thousands the way that it used to be, because now it's quite normal. 10 years ago, this was quite a sensation. In those days, we were often accused of being Zionists and being paid by blah 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 and so
on. Okay. I see how it is. Used to have high profile.
Ladies and others, Faye, I would love for you to come back next week and bring Mimsy with you. So that would be great.
Bring Mimsy? I don't know if she's going to come on the show. She's really busy, like all the time.
Yeah, but she's always busy. So it doesn't matter where she's busy. She can be more busy here than anywhere else.
Okay. So, I mean, she's really, really busy because she's in the middle of buying a house. So she's got a lot going on right now. I'll see if I can bring her on. I'm seeing her tomorrow. I've told everyone about this show, by the way, and they're all equally surprised that I'm reading Arabic online. But yeah, I'll see what I can get.
And sort of, Jana, I can't leave this. Okay, sorry, this was too late. Okay, but I'll put this back. And oh shit. Yes, Faye brightens the show, so you better come back next Friday.
Oh, thank you.
The Prophet bought slaves and sold them. Your point? That's my point. The Prophet bought slaves, freed slaves, and traded slaves. He was involved in the slave trade. The prisoner of war gets treated better than you do criminals in jail. Okay, why do you need a prisoner of war in the first place? If this is such a brilliant religion, if this is such a brilliant message, if every single person is created by the same God, why would you have a prisoner of war? If all people are created by this God, why would anybody fight Islam? It does not make sense. They wear what I wear, eat what I eat, and you can't strike them, but you can rape them. The Prophet said, please enjoy raping the women. The female captives that you have, you don't have to do azl. this coitus interruptus, pulling out before you come. No, enjoy your orgasm while inside, because you don't have to worry about the prices of these women on the slave market where you are going to sell those women, because Allah decides whether or not they will be pregnant. So God is in cahoots. So God totally agrees that Muhammad tells his people, enjoy raping the female slaves.
The whole argument,
treated better.
I know this is like really late in the show, but like this whole argument for validating slavery is honestly just nonsense. Like, I have been so angry about this. I had an argument with a different Muslim. His name is Zaim on Twitter. I had this argument with him, and he kept equating slavery to like domestic employment, which is not what it is. Slavery is slavery. It's not having control over your own body, over your own actions, being completely subservient to another person. You have no rights as a slave. No matter how much you want to say that Muslim slaves have rights, you can't have rights because you have no autonomy. It's ridiculous for you to say that it's okay because Muhammad said you can't strike them, and there are narrations in the hadith that indicate that you could strike them for different things. So it's a non-argument. It's slavery, it's wrong, and you shouldn't be justifying it.
Yeah. And I want to see if I can just quickly find this, because if I remember correctly, I have this right here. Because now, of course, he's saying there is no such thing as a what is it, rape in Islam. Well,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Yes, there is. Yes, absolutely is. Slaves have no right to say no because they're slaves. So it is rape by definition. It doesn't even matter if the slave consents, because that slave is a slave. You know, they have no autonomy to consent. And to say that there is no rape in Islam, promotes rape culture. There are narrations saying that if a wife refuses to sleep with her husband when he asks, the angels will curse her. That is rape culture, and that is, you know, allowing rape to happen. The woman has no autonomy over herself.
Isn't it also said that, you know, if he wanted to have sex on a camel, she has to give in to him no matter where or what the situation is as far as intimacy is concerned? And because I think that goes along with the hadith about the angels will curse until the morning. If Islam says there's no such thing as rape, I'll always say, well, Aisha was raped. There is no way a 9-year-old girl can consent to intimacy. Simple as.
Yep.
All right, so Tujana, there is no rape. Okay, this is your claim. All right, there is no rape, none, zero. Coitus interruptus equal rape? Laughing my ass off. What is coitus interruptus if you rape a woman? It is pulling out before you have an orgasm. That's what it is. And now look what Muhammad says. Sayyid al-Khadri, okay, Allah be pleased with him, okay. Abu Sa'id, did you hear Allah's messenger mentioning al-azl, in other words, the coitus interruptus, okay, before emission? He said yes, and added, we went out with Allah's messenger on the expedition to Mustalif, blah, blah. We took captive some excellent Arab women, and we desired them, for we were suffering from the absence of our wives. We also desired ransom for them. So we decided, they didn't ask, they decided to have sexual intercourse with them. You call that rape. But by observing azl. In other words, they were raping them, but because they didn't want to ruin the prices, they pulled out before they had an orgasm so that they wouldn't get pregnant. But we said, we are doing an act where Allah's messenger is amongst us. Why not ask him? So we asked Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him. And he said, it does not matter if you not do it, if you do it or not do it, for every soul that is to be born up to the day of resurrection will be born. And there are dozens of these where it says exactly this. We decided to have sexual intercourse. Allah decides whether that person will get pregnant or not. Our prices will not be ruined automatically. Allah will decide who gets pregnant from us raping these women. We decided to have sexual intercourse with them.
I would just like to add, as a side note, that I have had some terrible excuses for rape, but never have I heard that we were suffering from the absence of our wives. That's why we're raping these people. What are you suffering? This is such a disgusting hadith. Like, the fact that they could reiterate this ever again. Like, this should have been lost in time. This was such a disgusting thing to do and a disgusting thing to say, but they repeated it like it was okay.
Well, so to Jana, if you really think there is no rape, your level of knowledge is less than that of Kenneth Boma, because he knows that there's rape in the Quran. But if you just reject it, you're not only immoral, you're also an asshole. An immoral one at that. All right, on that note, guys, again, thank you very much. We will see each other next week on Friday, and we will continue with chapter 4. Yay!
Yay!
People in the chat, thank you very much. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, of course, as always, because it's the best thing that you can do. Don't go to Patreon. Don't throw money or bras or anything at us. Just give us a thumbs up. That's all we want. Thank you very much. See you next week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.